You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back. That music means I am back. Yes, my name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting network. If I sound back to normal, back to my old self, it's because I am back in the old Options Insider studios here in the heart of scenic and sunny Chicago. Just steps now from the new SBUX offices. So right here in the heart, the mecca of all things derivatives, still the mecca. Will that continue? Who knows? Who knows what the future holds, but still the mecca for the foreseeable future. Back from my extended sojourn to the Southern studio, even though, you know, we love you guys. Even when I'm gone, I'm still here for you, still doing all the shows you've come to know and love. Even when I'm struck down by legion of maladies, I still drag myself to the microphone, just coughing up my lungs, just to deliver the content that you folks have come to know and love. Speaking of said content, if you want more in your lives, and hey, who doesn't? Who doesn't want more of this content in your life? Well, then you know where to go. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. We had you just missed an awesome Pro Palooza last Friday. Myself and the Rock Lobster and Saad Hussein from Vesica doing a great trifecta there on Options Oddities, breaking down a whole bunch of great unusual activity. Then did a great Pro Q&A coming up after that on a Friday, so it was a double dose. Going to go back to that this week as well, actually. I have some stuff going on tomorrow, unfortunately, so Pro Q&A is going to get moved to Friday yet again. So you're getting your double dose on Friday again. We have the once and future Dr. Vix joining us. You got folks love to just pester him with all sorts of questions. So you know what? Consider yourselves off the leash, off the chain. Go forth and just unleash your questions upon him. He will take on all comers. That's going to be this Friday. Check your email for all your pro folks. They'll give you the exact date and time. And of course, if you want to learn more, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to join this amazing journey that is the Pro. Of course, that also gets you the live. That also gets you, in fact, we were going to do it today. It is the first. We were going to give away our July Pro Trading Crate. My producers have informed me they want a little more time to compile the list of everybody together so everyone has an equal and fair shot. So we're going to do it on Thursday. So if you were active as a member during the month of July, you will have your name in the hat automatically. You don't have to do anything to win one of these sweet, bespoke, one-off Options Insider Pro Trading Crates. No two are alike. Good stuff indeed. And you know what else? There's no others like him as well. We are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome back to the show, sir, from the dark and stormy shores of Maine. How you doing?
It is. It's actually it's sunny, breezy, and nice. Although I know you don't believe that, but it is true.
Lies, damn lies, and statistics, sir. That's what that all is.
Yes. You know why it is? Because Tucson's here.
Yes.
Tucson's supposedly in the Northeast.
Yes, he has brought his unique brand of just cheerful optimism to the show this week. Unfortunately, or not to the show, to your neck of the woods. He is hiking over there on the extended mountain ranges of New England. He said he was going to try to join, but he wasn't sure about his connection. That appears to be the case. You know, the mountains of New England, not exactly known for their quality connectivity. Beauty, scenic beauty, sure, it has that in abundance. The connectivity, not so much. Also, Uncle Mike, he's from the Midwest, so he's not used to land that goes up. So he's probably a little bit taken aback by it. So he and the crew will be hanging out there. I don't believe we'll have Uncle Mike join. Maybe if we can get his technological issues sorted out, maybe later on in the show. That also means if it's just myself and the Rock Lobster, there is no point doing the Guess That 80s Wrestler this week, because I can tell you right now, the Rock Lobster wouldn't get it. By the way, Rock Lobster, it was going to be Vince McMahon in honor of his departure from the WWE. But alas, no point in doing that. We will bring that back next week. By the way, listeners, I have secured a legit prize for that 80s pro wrestling game. I guess if neither of the contestants are going to be here, I will not unveil it yet, but it is pretty sweet. An exclusive I was able to secure recently. So I get so good, I got one for myself. And then if I were nice enough, maybe I'll give one away to these two scrubs if they can make it onto the show. Meanwhile, it's time to keep on rolling. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading. And I was extending that intro a little bit there because I wanted to see what was going on with these markets, to see if markets would turn a little bit, and they have turned a wee bit. Coming into the showtime, at the start of the show, right before showtime really, markets were ever so slightly green. They were kind of feeling a little bit frothy. S&P was up a couple of points. Nothing to write home about. Now, as the show proper has commenced, we have seen the turn to the dark side as the market turns, as they say over there on the soap opera circuit. S&P off about 0.2% now. The NASDAQ pretty much slightly unched to the dark side, off about 0.03%, and the Dow up 0.03%. So we have a bit of a mixed bag here to commence our trading week. All that means our friend, Mr. VIX, hanging out pretty close to unched from where it was on Thursday's show, listeners. It was at about a 22.5 on Thursday's show. It's about a 22.45 kicking off the show today. So not a heck of a lot going on, off slightly. But in the realm of VIX, that's pretty much just a rounding error. VVIX back up 4 points. It was down 4 points on our last show to 80. Now back up to 84 where it was on Monday's show last week. So we have a whole lot of resetting going on here this week. VXX, so who knows what this product is up to these days. Today it feels like rallying. It's up 0.75 point to 21.5 when we commenced operations here. UVXY, of course, starting to threaten that perilous level where they start saying, okay, it's time to reverse split it. It's at about a 10.5, off about 1/3 of a point. SVIX, so our inverse friend, 1266, a weird number, up about 0.16 here. UVIX, that's, of course, the levered 2X product at an 11. That's down 1.5 points. And VolQ, the at-the-money vol of the NASDAQ, doing a whole bunch of nothing today as well. 25.75, down 1/4 of a point. So a whopping whole 1/4 of a point here on the show. Mr. Rock Lobster, a lot of table setting has been done here, sir. What is catching your eye out there in today's markets?
Well, I think the biggest thing isn't Nancy going to Taiwan? We got that going on, or she's saying yes, no. They got that going on.
All I want to know is she taking Paul? Because that means options volume is going to take a hit.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, are they buying puts yet? That's my question. She's like, I'm going, I'm not going. She's trying to get cagey, trying to get a good price. And I believe we have the CHIPS Act passed the House and the Senate. So the only thing the knuckleheads can do of both parties is agree to spend $200 billion on semiconductor fabs. Because we have that money.
This Congress does seem pretty good at the largesse. They can spend money both sides of the aisle these days, like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, there's the Republicans can no longer claim any sort of fiscal anything.
No, they have no purity on that issue anymore. There used to be like some fiscal conservatives out there. I don't know where the hell they are now. They're all gone.
In 1994, when Newt Gingrich, I think, was
that was
literally, I think that's the last time. And I think maybe Boehner and Paul Ryan tried a little bit, when Obama was president, but they're only become fiscal conservatives when there's a Democrat in the White House.
Exactly. That's what look at this Biden guy. Look how much he's spending. I am suddenly a fiscal conservative.
And now they're just like, we give up. And so what's funny is the only fly in the ointment, I believe, for I guess it's called the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. It's like the Green New Deal. They're going to, tax corporations 15% minimum tax, which, to be honest, everybody's got to pay a little. I don't think there's anything wrong with just, if we just had one flat tax and just be done with it, instead of all the other nonsense. That probably would solve a lot of problems. But anyway, I digress. But it looks like actually it's a Democrat, Kristen Sinema, from Arizona. I guess she got her spending in her state, so she might be the fly in the ointment on the Inflation Reduction Act, because I'm pretty sure if you spend $1 trillion, that's not necessarily inflation reducing. I'm just guessing that.
Yeah, I think they flipped
I'm not an economist.
They flipped the economics books upside down. I think they read it backwards.
Yeah, I think so. It's funny with some of these acts, they seem to solve the opposite problem that they're named to solve. So I'm giving both parties just a big, four rotten tomatoes for all of it, just because it's just whatever. It's I feel like I keep looking at my study of Rome, and I go, it feels like every 10 years we just get closer. Rome had 50 senators.
Are you saying the barbarians are at the gate, sir? Are the Goths going to come raining down from Canada at any moment?
Yeah, it's I guess the Rome lasted 400 years. We're into 250 of our.
Depends on how you measure. If you go into like Byzantium, they had well over 1,000.
Yeah, but they weren't really where Rome was really. You peg the beginning of the Romans kind of when they finally smashed the Carthaginians. So that was probably 100 BC. I'm trying to remember like time around Hannibal, was that like 150 BC?
That's more like 150 in that range, I think. So I'll give you 500, 600 years of like Rome proper. Why not?
Right. So I mean, are there problems that the U.S. can solve? 100%. Is there any will to really solve any problems? It doesn't feel like from the federal level. They talk a lot about it, both sides, but I don't see a lot getting a lot done. Actually, it's funny is I was talking to my son about this, and you remember the Princess Bride, and when Inigo Montoya.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
He's like, I'm paraphrasing, but I do not think that word means what you think it means. And he said, inconceivable. It's like when Congress passes this stuff, I don't think you guys know what that word actually means, that phrase you just put out. It's like oppositville. So anyway, however, the market went straight up on all of that. That's all I can say. The market went straight up. So, Green New Deal, more spending, usually market likes it, right? The stock market likes it when the government wants to spend more money. They don't care about paying the bills necessarily in the short term, but they like it when they want to spend more money. So you can't fault them for, market up. a lot of green stocks kind of came off the mat. Solar up. I'm even looking at putting solar panels now if they're going to pay me $5,000 to put up a solar panel or something like that. So I think, and I also, all of a sudden people thought, well, the Fed's not going to kind of press forward with this rate rise thing, right? The Fed's saying, hey, we're data dependent and all this stuff. Housing prices are down considerably, right? I just, again, the latest data is down 11%. Median price all of a sudden. I'm not quite sure if that's correct. I always have to find more news, but rents are higher. Everybody can tell gas at the pump is somewhat less. I don't think food is less. Mortgage rates are definitely higher, and that's going to slow down demand for houses. So anyway, you guess you get you're getting data coming from both sides, and VIX hit a low on Friday, I think it was a 30-day low, which is always significant when you're rallying. We did have an 8% rally in SPX. So for all of those things, right, you kind of stand back and say, okay, what's going on? But from a vol point of view, you get the huge contango. Vol does look like it wants to start to drift a little lower. Realized vol range is somewhere between 19 and 22%, close to close vol. So it's, things are kind of fairish. We just had a big rally. So what's the trade? I don't know how great of a trade we have right now. Because I think everything's going to kind of flatten out a little bit. Now there's funky, maybe there's some exogenous news or something that freaks people out. But for the most part, how giddy do you get into this rally that we've just had? That's hard to answer that question. How do we stay up here? So as of right now, we're kind of hanging out, not doing much. The market's just kind of going back and forth today. And there's really no news. Maybe Jackson Hole, Powell talks tough, probably trying to talk stocks down again. He probably likes them better at 3,800 than 4,100. But he doesn't want the market to get overcooked on the fact that rates are going, or they're not going to be as aggressive as they thought. So I think the biggest question is how low rates have gotten. We were 3.5% on the 10-year, and they're down to 2.7 or 2.8 or something. So you have that's all kind of some bonds have rallied actually for about since June. So the rate rising expectation peaked a while ago and has since been coming down. So I don't think I'm not sure Powell wanted it that way, but that's what we got. So and I guess the last thing here is we had the last of the big tech earnings came out, and they were pretty mediocre. There was some revenue growth. Amazon didn't turn a profit. Apple's still making good money. Google's still making good money. But you didn't really have any growth in tech, there's no surprise there because basically people started going back to their life and stopped, using so much, spending so much time online since they actually went back to work and kind of being normal again after the whole COVID thing. It's amazing we barely mention that anymore, except for somebody I know who just got it really late in the game.
Yeah, it's still pretty front and center for me. So I don't want to go back to that. So I'm good. I'm good. Sans COVID. Can I say though already, Mr. Rock Lobster, I am enjoying this show tremendously. Here we are, 20-odd minutes in. We've already talked about the Punic Wars, about Hannibal Barca, talked about Princess Bride. You throw in a little Scipio Africanus, I'm a very happy man, sir.
I forget, Scipio, was he the...
he was the Roman general who defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama.
Yes, it was Scipio. That's right. Wow. I had to go back and I couldn't quite remember which one it was. But once you said it, I'm like, oh, yeah.
I may or may not have written a screenplay back in the day all about that Punic Wars battle, and that got optioned. It was kind of fun. I went out to L.A., did the whole agent thing for a while. It was fun. I realized quickly they're not going to buy a $100+ million historical epic from some dude they don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe now that you have this show and you have all the success, you should go retry and sell it again.
There you go. It is nice optioning those things. It is kind of a fun little, it's a little parallel to what we do here in the options market. We'll have to dust that bad boy off and check it out again. Good times here, listeners. I could digress about all sorts of fun historical topics. Instead, let's keep rolling here into what's going on out here today. And we're seeing a little bit of paper on the screen, not a ton. Again, it's kind of a bit of a shrug your shoulders type of day out there, listeners. VIX doing a whopping 213,000 contracts right now. The ADV 452, so back up over 450. I suppose that's a sign of something. But outside of that, not a heck of a lot. SPY, though, is tilting at that windmill of its ADV. 4.41 million contracts on the tape right now. The ADV 669, so it's going to hit that today, I would think. The S 1.25 million right now, actually 1.26 million. The ADV 2.1 million, so S on track to have a pretty robust day as well. Small caps, IWM 414,000 contracts right now. The ADV 690, so they're looking pretty robust as well. And not to be outdone, the Q said, what about me? 1.58 million contracts on the tape for the Qs. The ADV a little bit shy of 2.5 million. So the Qs, all pretty much everything but VIX seems on pace to have another day north of their ADV. And VIX could get there. We shall see. Let's get on out to the single names now. What's lighting it up out there? It's a decently active day, all things considered, given the fact that at least the VIX is kind of shrugging its shoulders. The indexes are putting up some numbers. And the single names, I should say, are kind of following suit. 214,000 contracts. It's not nothing. It's not the most active day we've seen, not even since our last show. Our last show, I think we were over 300,000 by number 9. Not going to get that way today, listeners, but still pretty robust. Number 10 gets us to NEO, 214,000 contracts on the tape. NEO has kind of been supplanted in our top 10 for the last couple of weeks as a lot of these earnings names have been popping up in there. Now, NEO fighting its way back into number 10. Looks like it's up about 40 cents on the day today, a little over 2%, trading a little bit north of $20. Good for number 10. Number 9, keeping in that Chinese realm out there. We go out to BABA, 224,000 contracts on the tape for them. 88.82 is where it's hanging out right now, off a little over $0.50 or about 0.6%. And then number 8, we go back to the softies. Good old softy, Mr. Rock Lobster's favorite holding of all time. 227,000 contracts on the tape. 277.5 is where softy is hanging out, off 3.25, a little over 1, about 1.2%. Then we do jump up a little bit to number 7. We're getting back out to the chips because we all know the chips are rocking again. Paul Pelosi's buying some chips. NVIDIA Corp, 183.70 right now, up a little over $2, a little over 1%. Good for 401,000 contracts. So folks are coming to play again in NVIDIA. Right behind it, not to be forgotten, we've got AMD at number 6, 463,000 contracts. So our chip friends are all looking pretty robust today. 95, almost just a tick under $96, listeners. Up about $1.50 today for AMD. Then we get to number 5, an interesting name, a controversial name, a name that has inspired our question of the week, listeners. This is the artist formerly known as Facebook, aka Meta Platforms Inc. Now, I hate that name with a fiery passion. Trading 161.75 up to 268 today. It is good for 463,000 contracts. Speaking of which, right now, our question of the week is, again, the artist formerly known as Facebook, aka Meta, is to put it mildly struggling right now. Stock's down over 50% on the year, was trading around 163 when we posted this earlier today. We said if you had to purchase an at-the-money call or a put expiring at the end of the year, which way would you go? We don't give any prices or any premium, nothing like that. We're just looking for your broad directional sense. Say, you're going to buy that put? So you're saying, look out below, there's more downside to come. Or you're going to buy a call, you say, you know what, this thing's kind of a little overdone, rally ho. Or you're just completely done. You're washing your hands of Meta. You've moved on to other names. I will not reveal how the early voting is breaking down. We'll come back to this in a little bit, listeners. But Meta right now, good for 463,000 contracts. And the number 5 spot on our list. Number 4, is this a meme again? Let's find out. It is Ford. Man, Ford feeling a lot of its oats today. 3.5% to the upside, 15.20, up $0.50. My goodness, those 12 puts sold looking pretty good now. 547,000 contracts for Ford. I was wearing it a little bit on those puts for a while, but no longer out here. Ford, feeling memey again. Are you folks back in Ford? Are you trading it up, selling puts, buying calls, buying stock? What are you up to out there in Ford? Hit us up, let us know. Number 3, yes, I said number 3. It's Apple, the fruit company. Man, what could kick Apple to the curb? Let's find out. Apple, 161 and about a half, off nearly a buck right now. 763,000 contracts on the tape for Apple. Number 2, it's the Amazonians. I was just emailing with our buddy, Mr. Flowmaster, right before the show. He's not impressed with Amazon. But Amazon, good for number 2, 810,000 contracts, up about 30 cents, 135 and a quarter right now on the day. But again, putting up some numbers. And then once again, the top spot listeners, it is the old Tesla, 1.2 million contracts. This is like the third or fourth show we've had Tesla pretty much at the top of the list. That's kind of interesting. 893 and a quarter, up about a buck. So pretty much a rounding error. Earlier today, though, listeners, we got up to 932 in Tesla. So it has had a nice pop, giving a lot of that back now. So again, interesting stuff afoot here. So quite the journey from 214,000 contracts at the bottom of our list to 1.2 million at the top. Speaking of journeys, we're on quite the earnings journey this week, listeners. We are in it. The folks at ORATS, man, they are cranking away at the free content for your listening, education, pleasure, information, call it what you will. Let's break down some of the names that are popping off this week first. Activision today, tomorrow, Uber, Airbnb. So 2 halves of the sharing economy right there. AMD, SBUX, good old SBUX, EA, Marriott, JetBlue, BP, and PayPal. That's just on Tuesday. Wednesday, Moderna, CBS, eBay, Under Armour, Robinhood. Thursday, Alibaba, Crocs, AMC, Duke Energy, Papa John's, Lyft, Square, Paramount, Lilly, and Kellogg's. And Friday, DraftKings out here. So a lot of names popping off. Hot off the presses from ORATS, folks. Your earnings move results, earnings season, and earnings trades reports. Not as a lot of results yet for today. Just looking really quickly. There's some names popping off. None that you folks really sink your teeth into. Just go out to some names that are popping off, like Activision today after the bell. This name was one of my favorite ones to trade. It was so range bound for a long time. I haven't traded it in years now because it has blown out of that range, but it used to hang out in that 10 to 20 range like clockwork, and you could trade a lot of premium, even less than that, maybe 10 to 14, 10 to 15. It was pretty tight. It's very range bound. It was great trading. These days, obviously, it's all caught up in all that Microsoft brouhaha. Will they, won't they? Will the regulators approve the dance or not? Activision today after the bell, trading right around $80, which is pretty much close to that takeover price. They're pricing in $1.77. In the past, they've moved $3. Not surprising that we would see less juice on that name, listeners, because they're tied up in a corporate action right now. So that's going to squeeze some of the air out of that balloon. Let's go out some other names popping off. Uber tomorrow before the bell, 23.5 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $2.63. In the past, they moved to $1.57. So a fair amount of extra juice for Uber. Maybe understandable given how much uncertainty and flux there is in that side of the space. Speaking of that side of the space, sharing economy, Airbnb also tomorrow after the bell. 111 is where they were trading. 963 is what they were pricing in. The past, they moved 791. So a fair amount of extra juice in Airbnb as well. Let's go out to the chips. We were just talking about them earlier. AMD tomorrow after the bell as well. $94.5. They're pricing in $7.30. In the past, they moved 514. So a little bit extra juice in AMD as well. Extra juice seems to be the order of the day, listeners. EA, second after the bell, 131.25 is where they were trading. They're pricing in, get this, $6.82. In the past, they've moved $4.67. I know ever since the Microsoft Activision deal, people have been swirling around EA and Take-Two. They're kind of the last big publishers that don't have a suitor. And we all know Microsoft and Sony kind of slugging it out for exclusives. So someone's going to come sniffing around EA. Probably won't be Microsoft because they're kind of already tied up with Activision. Maybe Sony. Do they have the capital? Maybe someone else. We shall see. But intriguing stuff. EA second after the bell. Let's go out to a few more. Let's go out to SBUX second after the bell as well. 84.78 is where they were trading. 4.59 is what they're pricing in the past. 3.45. So a lot of coffee vol on the docket, listeners. Probably a lot of input flux and inflation factoring into that, but still, that's a lot of juice for coffee. CVS, third before the bell, 95.68 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $3.82. In the past, they've moved $3.92. So one of the more in-line names we're going to talk about today. The third, Moderna, before the bell, 164 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $12 pretty much exactly. In the past, they've moved about $13 exactly. So a little bit less juice out there in Moderna. Let's see. Let's go out to BABA because they're always hot and heavy. Fourth, before the bell, 89.37 is where they were trading as of this report. Look at this, listeners. They're pricing in $7.33. In the past, they've moved $3.92. So a whole heck of a lot of extra juice out there in BABA. Again, given the, shall we say, regulatory flux of that environment, as well as the COVID flux, a lot of flux going on over there. Probably understandable the pricing in a little bit of extra juice. CROX. How much rubber shoe volatility is there right now, listeners? Let's see. Fourth before the bell, 71.64. They are pricing in $7.81. In the past, they moved $6.82. So a full dollar pretty much worth of extra juice for plastic shoes. Is that merited? I guess we'll find out. Let's go out to the Duck, a.k.a. Duke Energy as well. Fourth before the bell. 110 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 308. In the past, they've moved 224. So a fair amount of extra juice out there as well. Let's go out to the King of the Apes, AMC, fourth after the bell. 1456 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $1.50. In the past, they've moved 92 cents. So a fair amount of extra juice there as well, listeners. Went to an AMC movie this past. Haven't been to a movie in a while. And they spent all their money, I guess, from their stock on a nice commercial with Nicole Kidman. So they got money to burn. And, of course, the gold miner. Let's go out to, let's see. We're kind of coming up against it here. Let's go out to the season. You can check out this. There's literally hundreds of tickers you guys can search through, listeners. TheOptionInsider.com is the place to go. Instead, let's go out to the earnings season report right now. With 319 firms having reported in week 2, 101 in week 1, we are hanging out at 105%. Both week 1 and week 2 came in at 105%. That is exceedingly odd. Haven't seen that before. Both weeks the same level. So we're hanging out with a little bit extra juice. Now, that probably won't surprise many of you. We've got some new trades being entered today in EPR, TAP, and NSP. That brings us to 65 long straddles, 32 short straddles, and 51 more calendars. Wow, they're piling on the calendars. 51 long calendars for your trading education and information, listeners. Where do you go to find all that? TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go. As we go out of here and into our next segment, it is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let us unleash the Eye of Sauron, see where it fixes its fiery gaze. First today, this is the name we haven't talked about in a while. This is SAP. You know them, German software company, ticker symbol appropriately enough, SAP. Trading right now, 93.81. Rough year, listeners, off nearly $50. A year ago, they were trading 143. They got up to their high of 151 and about a half. That was on November 5th. And then, let's see, just started selling off from there pretty much, listeners, all the way down to the low for the year, 83.5 bucks. That was on July 13th. And like most things, it has rallied since then. Got up to about pretty much where it is right now, 93.81. So still off nearly $50 on the year. But a nice little rally of about $10 from its low in mid-July. Can it maintain that? Is our option flow saying it can maintain that? I guess we'll find out. Listen, let's go out to what we found out here. I don't know, Mr. Rocklops, it looks like we got ourselves a little bit of, well, it's kind of it could be a strangle. Could be a strangle. Looked at first blush, it looked like a risk reversal, but it's not lining up like a collar. A bullish risk reversal this tight in a name that has already kind of rallied a little bit would be weird, but it wouldn't be the weirdest thing out here, or it could be a strangle. Let's break down what we saw, listeners. Our Eye of Sauron found 10,100 of these SEP 90 puts going up for $2.05. That was right on the bid. They were 205 at 220. It's about a 30 vol. And then at the same time, we saw pretty much the same amount, 9,800 of the SEP 95 calls going up for $3.56. What makes it seem weird is that that's pretty much right on the bid as well, pretty close to it. I'll see if they did any stock with this. I don't see a stock leg, but you never know. They could have done stock with this as well. That'll play, obviously, with that execution a little bit. That gives them some wiggle room on where these numbers go up. Because as it's going up, it's kind of priced almost like they blasted away at a strangle, which is interesting. They got, $5.61 for it, so they got a fair amount of juice. But this name has been moving. I don't know if this is the name you want to be blasting away in a strangle in. Mr. Rock Lobster, what's your spidey sense telling you on this one? You feeling strangle? You feeling risk reversal? You think they got a great prices or on a collar? What do you think they're up to here?
So this SAP, like as in the big SAP, the big tech behemoth?
I don't know of any others. Do you?
Yeah. So what is, I guess, you look at it, the strangle is $5. I could see somebody selling the strangle. I mean, earnings are out. I mean, the Qs are kind of, they've definitely rallied from the bottom. And I'm just looking at the range, like the last 3 months. I mean, the low for SAP was 83 and the high was 100. So they're selling 95 calls and 90 puts. I would just say that, everything points to sale. I wonder what the flow master, if he's on, would say. But everything points to sale. But I have to say it's a pretty aggressive sale. Where you look at the vol, 188 vols at the bottom of the range, bottom of the 4-month range. And somebody's blasting out 10,000 of these. All I can say is it feels like it's one of those sales that feels bold, but will probably make money because it is covering the range of SAP. So it's bold, but it will probably make money. But it feels like they are selling the vol at the kind of the bottom. After all the moves are sort of in, where's SAP going to go? It's not like it's a hyper growth company anymore.
Yeah, it does have the whiff of a strangle about it. I don't know if I love it, but they have a chance to make money on this. What do you guys think of this one, listeners? $5.50, $5.61, I think it was for this 99. It's a pretty tight strangle too. They're not giving themselves a lot of wiggle room here. This thing moves and it has rallied 10 handles just in the past couple of weeks. So this thing could easily blow through this strangle again. What are your thoughts here, listeners, on this one? I don't love it. Don't hate it, but I don't love it either. I'm of mixed emotions on this one. Let's go out to another one here, listeners. Let's see what we've got in store for you next. Let's go out to, Yum Brands. Yes, we know this one. They have KFC. They have Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, the Habit Burger Grill. Never heard of that one. A whole bunch of things under the old Yum Brands. Ticker symbol, appropriately enough, Yum. Oh, wait, no, I thought this was a weird one. Yeah, no, this is not Yum Brands. They give me the wrong. I thought this is the kind of not subsidiary, affiliate of them, I suppose you can call them. This is the Yum China Holdings, because I do believe there is an aspect of Yum that can't run KFC or something in China or something like that. Probably something to do with the regulatory situation over there. So this is Yum China Holdings. The government over there, they want their piece of the action too. Ticker symbol, not Yum, but YUMC. I do believe this is the first time we've talked about YUMC on the network, listeners. Let's see, trading 47.15 right now, off $1.58 or 3.25% on the year. It's been kind of a rough year for them as well. $62 is about where they were trading. That's close to the high. They hit about $63.50 in September, and ever since then they've been trending lower. They actually took a hit in March. It went from $54 down to $33.55. Looks like that was their low for the year on March 14th. Then they shot back up to about $43. And they've been bouncing in this kind of mid to high 40s range for pretty much the better part of the rest of the year, to where we find them right now, $47.15. And it seems like Mr. Rock Lobster, someone else has noticed this range, and they've decided it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. They're going to take a little bit of money off the table to the tune of the 5,000 lot of the OC doubles, the OC 55 calls, blasting away at these for $1.01. This is a 35 vol, listeners, and the stock was actually a little bit higher. The stock was 47.80, so these are already looking pretty decent for them. It's out to October, so they got a little bit of time here, Mr. Rocklop, so obviously anything could happen. But intriguing stuff here. Last time it was north of 55 was actually a while ago. It threatened it in March, but before that, you got to go all the way back to November of last year. So they got a little bit of room to run here. What are your thoughts on this one, Mr. Rock Lobster? And do you prefer it to the SAP Strangle?
Interesting history. This just looks like a straight buy right to me. Like somebody owns some stock. They sold these for $1. In YUM, it's actually, this is one of the few Chinese equities that's up. Like if you look at Chinese technology stocks for the last 4 or 5 years, nowhere. The government has successfully kiboshed all of it. This at least is, I mean, it's got a little performance since 2018. So I think this is pretty buy right. You would think with China, with pretty hungry mouths, like you sell out of, I think they can't sell KFC in China. I don't know exactly, but you would figure there'd be some growth there for some of those brands. So I just think this is just a standard buy right. Somebody's just trying to grab the premium they think they can get. Nothing hugely out of the ordinary there.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's a decent little bit of harvesting. I kind of like it, actually. In terms of how it works, they operate all those brands except in China, where the brands are operated by a separate company, Yum China, because the Politburo, they want their pound of flesh, Mr. Rock Lobster. They're like, you cannot operate those unless you make Yum China, which we have a controlling interest in, I'm sure. So there we go. Yum China runs all these things over there in China, and someone harvesting a little bit of the old risk premium. Is this a name that has come across your radar, listeners? Yum China? Are you more familiar with perhaps the American equivalent there, Yum Brands? Hit us up. Let us know. Speaking of hitting us up, you folks are not shy. We got a request coming in from the chat from good old Mr. Unlimited about PTEN, ticker symbol PTEN. This is PTEN. This is Patterson UTI Energy. Talked about these before. Land drilling and pressure pumping services. And let's see, ticker symbol P10, trading right around $16 right now, $16.12 or so. He wanted to know, I wonder if P10 made it on the odd block. I saw 9,000 puts trading at the 12 strike in September, with the stock trading at $16. Its low is $12.20. I think they sold half of them at 20 cents, the other half at 25 cents. I love our listeners when they do our job for us. But no, there you guys are on the ball. You guys are picking up all kinds of good stuff. And yes, you're right. P10 did have a bit of a put palooza. Really quickly on P10, listeners, trading $16 right now. A year ago, it was trading right around $8. So they've had a nice run, obviously, as most of the energy space has. They actually topped out for the year at $20.50 on May 27th. And since then, they've kind of sold off. They got down to $12.72 again on July 15th, and they rallied again now to where they are about $16 and change. Their low for the year came actually back in December of, looks like about $6.44. So they are a wee bit off the low and also a wee bit below the high. So closer, obviously, to the high than to the low out there. In terms of these puts, though, the SEP 12 puts going up 9,270 times, Mr. Rock Lobster, for 22 cents. Interesting prices. The markets were 15 cents at 30. I'm looking at the prints here. They went up in two blocks, 20 cents and then 25 cents. That's how you get these weird prices, listeners, of 22 cents, is that you're averaging out the overall price for all the contracts that they did. This is a 72 vol. Actually, I'm sorry, a 70 vol, Mr. Rock Lobster. And let's see. These are SEP. The next earnings is on October 27th, so no earnings juice in these. They were 25-cent bid out, though, a little bit later, 10:36. So somebody looks like perhaps was maybe scooping these bad boys. That's a decent price, though, 22 cents on these. I don't know. The 25-cent kind I could see buying. Well, I don't know, Mr. Rock Lobster. $12. The stock's at 16 right now, paying 22 cents for 9,000 lots of these bad boys, doing it on splits. Obviously, it can get lower. It can get to $6.50, but that's it's interesting stuff. What are you feeling? What's your spidey sense telling you on these puts, Mr. Rocklops? Are you feeling buy? You feeling decent sale? What are you feeling?
It's an interesting one. Like they're going out 20. It's hard because there's so little volume around this. I mean, mostly with a like this is you have to think of what is the person that's, if you're buying them, what are you getting out of it, right? I mean, are you buying with stock? There's like a little divvy play there, but that's 12 cents in dividends. They've raised the dividend. Earnings are set to come out. It's kind of I mean, these are going to expire before earnings. It feels more like a line in the sand put to me, with, kind of how it's traded recently. That's what I would say. I mean, the kind of long-term, kind of middle of the range is like 12. It just feels like line in the sand put, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. They only traded a 4-lot since, and the market coming out was 25 cents at 30, Mr. Rock Lobster. So that makes me feel that they may have bought these, The vol was a little bit higher. The stock was unched a half an hour later, and the vol was now a 75, and the market was tighter and higher. It's like, you're right. I think I like them better as a sale, but I get the whiff of buying. I don't know. We shall see. We'll put that in the notes. What do you guys think, listeners? I'll make the notes. We'll come back to these. But the way they're priced out and the way the market was coming out, 25-cent bid, I'm guessing maybe some market. They were choking on nearly 10,000 of these, the market makers. I don't think they would have been 25-cent bid coming out. So intriguing stuff afoot here. We love our listeners. You guys always throw us interesting curveballs. Now it's time for us to return the favor. It is time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
Our listeners are thinking sale, too. They think they sold them at 20 and 25 cents. I can see why you might think that. Just the way they're bid out to me has me kind of, and they sold them. They got a pretty good price for 25. So that's interesting. We shall agree to disagree, which is part of the fun of this, listeners. There's a lot of room for interpretation in the unusual activity here. I do like it better as a sale, if that makes you feel better. Let's get on out to our question of the week now, listeners. Meta, the artist formerly known as Facebook, struggling a bit, down 50% of the year, trading around 163. If you had to buy an at-the-money call or put expiring at the end of the year, which way would you go? You want to buy the put, you can buy the call, or you're just done with Meta completely. Mr. Rock Lobster, what is your vote? What do you think our audience is voting for?
I'm going to guess the audience is saying put, although I'm just done with that stock. I just don't like what they're doing. And so I'm kind of done. I don't even use the platform anymore. I'm not on it. I don't look at it. All that's Instagram. I'm done with all of it. So I would say personally, I am done. I think it's going to go lower because a company like that has declining revenue I don't think that's a good harbinger for the future for Facebook.
Probably not a bullish sign, but our audience is agreeing with you, Mr. Rock Lobster. 45.5% right now saying puts. Time to look out below. 36.4% of you also agreeing with you, saying they're done with Meta as well. They're wiping their hands of this one. They're like, I'm just done with this name. Only 18.2% of you are saying this thing is overdone. I'm buying some calls. This just went live. This will be our question of the week, so you have time to get in there. At Options is the place to go to make your voice heard. Our question of the week last week, you guys were feeling a little bit bearish. Didn't quite work out, though, listeners. We asked you last week if you had to buy a SPY at the money call or put. At the time, SPY was at about $39.70. By the way, it's like the sell-off is exacerbating a little bit as we're coming into the end of the show here, listeners. S&P off about 0.6%. Dow now turning to the red, off about 0.4%. NASDAQ off a little over 0.5%. But still, we asked you last week if you had to buy an at-the-money call or put on SPY that expired at the end of the week. The at-the-money was $39.70. Which way would you go? 57% of you, or 56.9 to be precise, chose the SPY put. You were fading this rally. Only 36.2% of you said you're going to buy the call, and 6.9% said you're going to buy that straddle. You're greedy. So looks like the call or the straddle, depending on your prices, was the way to go, because obviously we're still well north of fourth, actually north of 4,100 still. So all you were fading, but unfortunately you had to wait a little bit. Maybe that fade is kicking in now, listeners. As we keep on rolling, it is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody. Let us go around the block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until we can gather here together, at least for this program again on Thursday. Mr. Rock Lobster, what is on your radar, sir?
Well, I mean, we've got this big vote coming for the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. That's fairly big. We always have the stew of, news-setting geopolitical problems, whatever. Nancy Pelosi apparently is going to Taiwan, and they said they're going to shoot her plane down, so that could cause a mess. Although World War III, because they shot her plane down, probably wouldn't be any fun for anybody, least of all her. The market got pretty giddy thinking Powell is not going to be aggressive with rates. And, again, I'm not aggressively fading this rally, but, it's hard to believe that was worth, I see him just walking kind of comments back somewhat. So the stock market starts to get a little less giddy. But I think this congressional largesse of $1 trillion is looming large, and it's generally bullish. It's hard to say that's not.
Look at you saying they're going to come and shoot her plane down. Can you imagine? Of course, this year, everything else we've seen the last couple of years, I guess that wouldn't surprise me anymore. But
exactly. I don't want it to happen, but it would not surprise me.
That would be a bit of a, shall we say, an aggressive step by anyone. Anyone who would contemplate such a thing. Music listeners, it means we are contemplating the end of this program. But if you're listening live and you're saying to yourself, I'm just getting going. My juices are just getting flowing. I need more of your content in my ear holes. Post-haste. Well, you know what? We got you covered. We'll be back in a little bit with the crypto rundown with the folks from Tradeovate. And also the chief strategy officer of Ninja Trader. Going to talk about all the crazy micro ETH, micro Bitcoin, all the crazy stuff going on. Perpetuals probably going on over there on the future side of crypto, which is a lot. That'll be in pretty much exactly an hour after this show. So we'll pump some fun stuff in there for the live back then for that. With the guests, again, tomorrow, usually our Pro Q&A day. Not going to do a Pro Q&A tomorrow. It'll be moved to Friday where you will get unfettered, unlimited access to the once and future and now present. He got his doctorate, Dr. Vix. So get those questions ready. You can start sending them in now if you want. I know a lot of you like to take advantage of that. Dr. Vix, usually a pretty popular one. So get those questions in early and often. And Mr. Rock Lobster, if folks have questions for you that they can't wait to unleash upon you, where should they go? What should they do?
888-TRADE-01. Call Ted. Ask for any of the option pit products that I manage. I got a lot of great stuff. Having good years in them. And come on by. So if you want to learn how to trade and get trades in real time as well, come on over to optionpit.com. And that's what we do all day long, every day.
And you know what? He's off hiking in some mountains, but I'll give him a plug as well. Uncle Mike, our resident permabull, the guy who can't get enough crypto, won't stop whispering in my ear saying, hey, can I please get on that crypto rundown show? No to you, Uncle Mike, but you can find more about him. stcharleswealth.com is the place to go. He's got all his content there, links to his YouTube. Give him a follow on the old Twitters as well, at Mike Tusaw. A lot of good stuff coming out of stcharleswealth.com. A lot of good stuff coming up for the crypto rundown in a little bit. Back again on Wednesday now, and the live fun for Options Boot Camp. Myself, Mr. P, tackling all comers out there with all sorts of great options topics. Then, of course, back again on Thursday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.